Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon to everyone here. Now I'm actually going to do an analysis on the examples of variation in accents, and we are going to do a very detailed review on these two types of English, which is British English and American English. And the examples is going to be based on the movies The Oppenheimer and The Gentleman. So these are the four types of variation that we are going to analyze based on the examples that I have found in the two movies. So the first one, which is the systemic variation, distributional, lexical, and realizational. So these four types of variation does differ from how you actually see the origins of it, how does it be realized in the process of sound making, and also includes how does it spells. But I am not going to explain it now with details, but we are going to look at it as I explain each of the examples in the scenes of the movies. So the first one, which the first example. Wait. Alright, sorry. So this is the first example, which falls under the systematic variation, the non-rotate and rotate the accents variation. So focus on the word found on this video.
How did you know the location? Right here. I need you to tell me how you knew the location of your farm.
Alright, catch that, the word found. So the most obvious difference that I actually going to highlight on this variation, on this example in particular, is the drop R, the rhoticity, which we can see based on the video. British drop the rhoticity R in their pronunciation, while American will actually realize the R word, the rhotic R in their pronunciation. So, but to the sake of this explanation, actually some confuses with the systematical rhoticity and the distributional or the realizational rhoticity. So let's say, for example, we have a word with a R in the middle. It does not fall under the systematic variation, because the rhoticity variation under the systematic variation is only when the sound is at the end of the word. So let's say, for example, we have the word fruit. We don't pronounce it as fruit with extra rhotic. That is not how it works. So let's take a look at the second video. Wait a minute. So go. Okay, so
how did you know the location? Right here.
So this second video.
How did you?
So this second video focus on the word dollar. So again, the absence of rhoticity R in the pronunciation of Americans or in the pronunciation of British people. They don't realize the rhotic R in their pronunciation, while Americans will do that. So this is the most obvious example of systematic variation. There is also another example that I prepared.
I'm telling you, I will squeeze this trigger and Tony will be no more.
Tony. So, alright. So, the word trigger again. British does not realize the rhotic, the R sound, while American does realize the R sound based on the example that we just saw in the Oppenheimer scene. Okay. As for the third example, we are going to look at the realizational variation, which is specifically long and short vowel. So British people, or not British people in exact, the British English does not realize certain vowels in their words are long compared to Americans, where they will actually no, that's the opposite. British actually does make the realization of their vowel longer compared to American. So in the British accents, the sound, the vowel sound is longer, while American will keep it short. So as for example, this scene, which is American. So there was no intention in stress intonation or whatsoever on the mu. It's just simple music, while British will actually pronounce the word as music longer. Okay, so another example, which is also realizational variation. For the sake of explanation, realization is a variation where we see the difference being in the production of sound, but we don't see it in the spelling. So the spelling may be same, for example, the word home, but two different accents, British and Americans, actually pronounce it differently based on the sound production. So this just like how these pronounce it. So the word is same, the word is the same home, but the way they spell it, the way they pronounce it is different. So that is a realizational variation. We only see the differences in the production of sound, not in the spelling. And for the fifth example, which falls under the category of distributional variation, where in simpler terms, distributional variation is a differences that is based on factors such as your geographical location, maybe your origins or habits formation, and all sorts of things. So for this example, let's take a look at this scene.
Feel free to talk. I gather you're the consigliere in the outfit that my boys were stupid enough to fuck around with. On that note, I'd like to extend my apologies.
So focus on the word stupid, which is British pronounce it with stupid, while American will actually just pronounce it as stupid. That is one of the differences that is based on distributional variation. So the y sound is there when we're referring to the British English, but the y sound will not be realized in American English. So there is a very simple explanation for this, because in the British English, the y sound will not be realized or will be dropped if there is any palatal consonant before the specific or the particular phonemes. So let's say, for example, the word stupid here, we see that there is T, which is a palatal consonant. So the Americans will the British will not drop the y sound, because the phonemes T is not within the range of palatal consonant. So the y sound is realized. And for Americans, it's not palatal consonants, it's coronal consonants, which are the d sound, basically the opposite of not exactly the British, not exactly the opposite, but these are the words that to pay attention for, because if there is these words before the particular phonemes, before the targeted phonemes, the y sound will be dropped if there is any of these coronal consonants. Just like how they realize this they pronounce this word in the movie scene. Okay, so now we move on to the example 6, which falls under the category of lexical variation. So basically, lexical variation is just how two different language variation, American English and British English, use a specific or particular word that basically refers to the same thing. So let's say for example the word here, chips. The British actually refers fries as chips, while we Malaysian are actually more commonly we will commonly call it fries instead of chips. But that is the first example of lexical variation. Okay, so now that's example. Now, as for the second movie, which is from the Oppenheimer movie, which is an American movie. Oh, wait. So the word airplane is actually, I actually don't know this until now. The British doesn't actually refer it as airplane, they just call it plane. And American will usually refer it as an airplane. So that is one of the examples of lexical variation, which just basically refers to the differences of the word, but it means the same thing. So now, as for the Q&A questions, Q&A session, is there any questions?
Question.
Questions.
Okay, I have a question. Alright, so based on your explanations on robotic and non-robotic system, so does the word remember should be spelled as remember, no like more arts in it with no more roticity?
Oh, actually, okay, good question. So, like just like how I have explained earlier, the rhoticity actually have two different variations, which is the systematical rhoticity and distributional. So the first one that we saw was systematic variation. The rhotic one is actually only referred as the systematical variation when it's at the last phoneme. So like for example, the word farm, you spell it as, British would call it as, British would pronounce it as farm. There is no rhoticity there, while Americans will have very obvious R in the pronunciation. But it's not as for other words with R, but on the middle of the words or at the beginning, just like remember or fruit, you don't need to put more stress onto the rhoticity if it's not at the last phoneme or the last syllable. Is there any other question?
Me.
Okay.
Actually, I'm wondering what and why these variations exist, and also, is there any particular reason to these variations?
So, good questions. A sign of curiosity, which is a good thing. So, so these variations, I guess, have their own origins and reason to exist. But just like how we Malaysian have variation in our slangs, English also have it, their own variation, and it actually traces back all the way from the Middle English and the Old English, where since English is widely used globally, and some people have different habits, word habit formation, different tendency in sound production. So the wording itself will change, and that goes the same for the sound production. So yes, I think that is all. the end of my analysis and for this presentation. So thank you for your time, and I end this presentation with tasbih kafarah for 7 hours.